Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us on the Nikki Medoro show. We have a great show ahead. Steve Moskowitz, our founding exclusive sponsor, will be joining us in a few moments to give us all the details of all the tax needs and services he could provide for us. Kim McAllister, of course, is
What
here
up?
with
What
me.
up?
I'm still practicing. Somebody had emailed me
Hmm.
after I'd done the Steve Moskowitz jingle the other
Oh,
day
yeah.
and was trying to make me do it to the music of the Mickey Mouse song, like Mickey.
No, I
Did
like the
did
original
not does not
jingle.
work as much as
No. .com.
moskowlp.com.
Yeah, I like
I
it.
love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, you can give Steve a call at 888 tax deal moskowitzllp.com. He is our founding sponsor, and we always appreciate the fact that he has believed in us from the very beginning, ever since we left Station X. Okay, so do your finger exercises. Give the show a big thumbs up. It helps us with the algorithm, helps people find the show, advertises us to other people that may not know us already. So if you could just click that thumbs up just once, it really helps us out. The Patreon has been so successful. We still need a lot of financial support to make this thing viable. This is our only job. So if you go to my website, thenikkimedoroshow.com, our Patreon link is there where you can donate any amount, as well as links to our YouTube channel. So if you've been talking with your family and friends and they're like, where's Station X? You could be like, I know where you can find some of the hosts. Now,
Hmm.
yes, we don't know what the other hosts are doing, right? I mean, Pat still hasn't announced anything. John hasn't announced anything. Chip we're keeping in touch with, so we don't know what he has coming down the pipe, but hopefully something soon is going to be coming. So we'll see. Also, the super chat is live. So in the live chat, you'll see it right then and there. You can throw us some dollars, a super sticker, a super chat. When you do it, it'll pop right up. You can do that each and every show. So that's always appreciated. And yeah, it's gonna be a good time. On today's show, when I read this article on CNBC, it's like a light bulb went off. You know when you're in school, Kim, and people lay out the things you need to plan for?
Hmm.
Oftentimes the big assumption is made that you're going to have kids, right? You need to start planning for your family. So you need to have a house that can have kids. And then, of course, you're going to need to save for that kid's college. And all of these things are very child focused. And according to the census, about 11% of Americans 55 and older are child free. And that number could be growing. Apparently, it's really hard to obviously gauge, but about 1 in 5 adults said they don't want children. Now, the survey came out of Michigan. It was conducted by Michigan State University. Now, it's a small, swath of data, but apparently Michigan is demographically similar to the entire country. I didn't know that. So that's why they use this area, and they think that it will definitely uh, kind of play out across the country. So they assume about 50 to 60 million Americans are child free.
Well,
So
it
if
makes
50,
sense. It
yeah,
makes sense because I think the younger generation, you know, if you're like middle aged, you have your kids and you're done and whatever. I mean, it's too late if you haven't had them by now. But this younger generation, people in their 20s and 30s, I'm hearing from a lot of people that they don't want to have kids. Like they're making a different choice.
kids are expensive. I mean,
Yeah,
they
but
never stop asking for
But
things.
I will say it's one of those things where if you never have kids, you don't know what you're missing. It is the best thing I've ever
Right.
done in my life.
Of course.
I mean, I just can't imagine my life without my children. Now, I know it's not for everyone, but how do you know unless you have that experience? That's the only way I can.
Right, of course. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, what you don't know, right? You don't know
Right.
what it's like to be an adult living your life without kids. But if you're trying to plan your financial future, if you're trying to get financial advice and it's coming from this assumption that you're going to have a couple other people under the roof and it's not just
Sure.
you and a partner or something, then the advice obviously will change. And so joining us today is a certified public accountant, Jay Zygmunt, the founder and child-free wealth specialist. Dr. Jay, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Hey.
Absolutely. By the way, I'm a certified financial planner. The accountants do the math. I
Oh,
do
there we
the
go.
planning
Certified
for the
financial
life.
planner. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that because planning is what we're talking about. Um, Before I brought you on, I was talking about these numbers that have been coming out from the University of Michigan. 50 to 60 million Americans. 50 to 60 million Americans
Mhm.
are child free. Um, that kind of upends, I would say, people's financial planning if so many people are not having children.
Well, it's more than that. So we don't know the exact stat. Everybody's kind of bouncing back and forth. There's a stat over 55, about 11% of the US. When you look at the bigger population, it's growing. 25% is kind of the common stat. But all financial advice, if you go online, assumes you're gonna have kids. Like
Right.
it's just automatic. We call it the life script. The life script is you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you do your 20 years, you retire. Like that's the standard thing.
Hmm.
Well, if you throw out the life script and say, I'm going to have a different life, either by choice or not by choice, you're kind of left going, well, what do I do now?
Right. And so, I mean, when you're a certified financial planner, obviously people come to you all the time with different situations. If they come to you and say, Dr. J, I don't know if kids are in our future or my future. What are the first things you tell them on how to look at their financial future?
Well, actually, the first question is what you started with, which is look, if you're not sure, follow the standard script.
Okay.
So the way we look at it is child free means you don't have kids and not planning on having kids,
Mhm.
or permanently childless. So when you decide, hey, they're out of the picture, that changes your entire financial plan. It's just, it sounds like it's just like terminology, but it's a
Mhm.
question of which path are you picking for your life, or for many of the childless folks, was chosen for them. Then it changes your finances.
I wonder though if you stuck with a standard script and just assumed that you needed to plan for kids and you didn't end up having them, then what would be the harm? Because then here you have all this extra money, unless you put it into a certain college fund where you couldn't get it back out. You would just have all this extra cash or this extra money to deal with at the end, which is like, hey, it's a windfall. Woo.
Well, that would sound appropriate, but it changes everything. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
So many childless folks, most that I talk to, don't care about how much money they have at the end. So you say, okay, cool. I don't care if I have $100 in my hand when I die. I don't want to run out, but I don't care how much I have. So for me and my wife, we're child free. If we have any extra money, it's going to go to our nephews. But how much they get, it's up to
That is
luck,
what
I
it is,
guess.
right? Yeah, there you go.
So once you do that, that changes your financial plan. Because for my clients, if I look at it and say, hey, you're going to die with $1 million, that actually could be a failure on their part, because they could have spent that and actually had life experiences or had something in their life that they enjoyed, rather than just adding up dollars.
Right. So, how specifically should people be investing if they're not going to be investing in possible children or college funds or things like that?
Yeah, the way we say it is living a life of child free wealth means you have the time, money, and freedom to do what you want. So that investing can actually be in you. So, great example. A lot of couples are looking at, well, what can we do with our careers? I have people that are doing what they call sabbatical, taking 6 months off, finding themselves, figuring out what they really want to do, which most times is not what they went to school for. It's like, you get stuck on this standard path and you're like, I'd rather go be a pilot, or, be a librarian, or open a
Exactly.
cupcake shop or something, where they can invest in themselves early on for living a different life. We actually have an approach we call financial independence, live early, where it's like that dimmer switch for work for just the right amount, which would change your choices in life and what you can invest in you rather than just the stock market.
What about the
Or
worry about not having anybody to take care of you? I often hear that, especially, sometimes within certain families, not that you only have children to take care of you, but if you don't have kids and you're on your own, then you're really on your own.
All right. So I have a love-hate thing with this question of, well, who's going to take care of you when you're older? Like,
Right.
seriously. First thing is, if somebody asks you that question, that means they're assuming somebody in their family is going to take care of them. I'm just
I don't,
calling it out.
right. That's not necessarily true.
But it's an assumption.
Right.
And here's what the data says. So the census looked at adults over 55 in the US, and they found that childless folks, this is what the group they were looking at, 2.5% got any financial support from their family over 55. So I mean, like, nobody. But what they also found was that in adults over 55, that 1.5% of parents got any support. So parents actually got less financial support than the childless folk. By the way, neither of them got any, like, real money. But like, the reality is that question is faulty. The actual answer is the child-free folks, we know we got to take care of it. We put a plan. My goal is with my clients by the time they're 45 to either put money aside or have a long-term care plan, have paperwork in place for that. But the truth is everybody should be doing it.
Yeah. I mean, is there a difference between someone who comes to you who's never had children versus someone that comes to you and is like, I had kids, they're on their own, they're taking care of themselves? I mean, is it the same type of advice you give them?
So the people that have kids tend not to be my clients.
Okay.
I have a couple, but I mean, my company's child free wealth. So like, it's kind of in the name.
Your search doesn't come up for those people, I would assume.
No, but what happens is I see people go, well, they call the term DINK, dual income, no kids. I'm a DINK because my kids are college. Yes, but it's not the same financial plan.
Right.
One of the interesting things is 32.1% of childless people over 55 were never married versus 2.5% of parents. So we're talking about alternative family structures, whether it's couples, long-term, not married, groups, different things. And that changes the financial plan also. The way I look at it is the foundation's different and the outcome's different. So it changes everything in the middle.
Right. Knowing what dealing with, child-free families versus being single versus being together but not married, is there a sweet spot? Like, if you fit into this box, dating, long-term dating, sharing a home and a mortgage, no kids, living, is there a sweet spot of just, being financially set, or does it really matter whether or not, you're married, kids, and there is no better one?
So the census found that if you're a childless woman, single,
okay,
you have the highest net worth, but really by like nothing, like by a couple $1,000s, like doesn't really change a thing.
Okay.
I actually just put out a research study looking at child-free folks, looking at their net worth. Not a big deal. Being child-free doesn't make you rich. Like there's still income disparities. It still exists, like it's not magic. The one interesting thing is I actually asked in my study, I said, are you happy with your life? 94% said yes.
Child-free people said yes.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Did you question the people?
I know. Did you question the people with kids?
Yeah. That's somebody else's researching.
Yeah, exactly.
The national averages are somewhere 50-60% is kind of what you hear in the data. So when you ask that question about, is there a sweet spot? No, live your life. My thing is figure out the life you want to live, then make your finances fit it. Don't let your finances drive what life you want.
Yeah. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes the finances
advice.
really dictate a lot of the things, but that is great. And it's interesting because when I was reading this article, Dr. J in CNBC, it's one of those things where I think if I look back on my life, I was making assumptions about where I would be, the path I would take, kind of that path that you were talking about at the beginning. And it, even though I would never trade it for a million years, I have my 2 kids and my husband, and I'm completely happy and all that. It's interesting to kind of think about the other side and what our financial future would look like if we didn't take that path. So Dr. J Zigmont, certified financial planner. You can find him at childfreewealth.com. Dr. J, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate you having this discussion, because the hard part is it's a subset of the community that people are like, oh, hey, that's a different life, and just try and understand it.
I never even considered it. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? All right, Dr. J, thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye. Yeah.
That's
Kim,
so
I think
interesting,
I feel like when you just feel like you're always going to be on a certain path, right?
Mm-hmm.
How much was it that you wanted it versus you just assumed you would have it?
Or that you were supposed to have it. That,
right. The conversation
expected you to do this, so you met the expectation. Now, for me, I wanted it because I couldn't have it. And so I tried for 7 years to get it. And finally I got Julia, which, so for me, that was not only did I want it, I worked for it.
Yeah.
Right? I had to come up with a financial plan to make it happen. So that was a bit different in my situation. But I thought one of the things that he was saying was so interesting, where he was talking about figure out the life you want to live and then make the finances fit. Don't just fit your life into your finances. And I think
Yeah.
that's really advice we can all take.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and like I added at the end, it's not always easy to do that. Sometimes, I have $100 in my pocket. This means I can only do this much, and so we're
Mhm.
limited by that amount. Instead of thinking, okay, what do I want to do, and how do I make this $100 work to do what I want to do? Looking at it a different way. But when you have kids, I mean, I love them to death. They're expensive,
Would you
so
say you wanted it, or I'll put the same question to you, or that you were meeting expectations, or
The joke in our house, even though she was not a mistake, we just didn't plan on having our first child. It just wasn't one of those things where, I mean, like you wanted it, you worked for it,
right,
there was a process that you went through. For me, my husband and I, we were enjoying life, but I was getting older. I was 30 when I had my first kid. And not saying that's old, but some of my friends had already had kids and what have you. But no, I think I always wanted to have kids. I remember one time I was sitting with some of my best friends and we were sitting, and I don't know, a comment was made and I took it the wrong way, but it was kind of challenging whether I even wanted children. And I remember I
oh,
was really offended by it. And I was a teenager at the time. So I was nowhere
right.
close to getting pregnant. But I remember that conversation vividly, like, of course I want children. Now, did I really sit with that and think about, like, why do I want kids? Is this something I want to do? No. But I know that, I wanted to raise something. I wanted to see a life develop before my eyes, and all the ups and the downs and everything that
Mhm.
goes along with it. I wouldn't trade it for $1,000,000.
See,
So,
for me, I think it was less cerebral. Like, I didn't
mm,
think about that. There was some biological thing in me that was this yearning that felt
yeah,
like I just must do this. Like, there's not a this isn't going to happen for you.
it
There's
has
a
to.
you're going to make this happen no matter what. Like, there was this biological thing. It's so hard to explain. It wasn't a let's sit down and think about how much this is going to cost and think about why you want to
Right.
do it and like lay out all these reasonable, logical reasons why. There wasn't that. There was my body saying, do this and do it now.
Yeah. And it's not easy. I mean, being a parent is not easy. It'll throw you curveballs left and right. I feel like being a parent reminds you so much of when you were a kid, and nowadays, I mean, trying to relate to some of the things that kids go through can be hard. I mean, with computers and internet and social
Mm,
media and not being able to take a break, those are the negatives, but just also the exciting things that they're able to do and experience that weren't even around when we were kids.
yeah.
It's I always say, like, when my kids go through school, I'm like, yay, I could learn this again because they're learning it again. And I might not have remembered it as much the first time I was going through it. So I wouldn't trade parenthood. It's not easy. A marriage isn't easy. I mean, nothing as far as like planning a life with other people, whether you gave birth to them or married them, is easy. And the reason why I'm also talking about that is I was reading this article today, and I don't know what the dynamics are in your household. Do you guys split, the things around the house evenly and all that kind of stuff with the kids, with the
Mm,
husband?
it
Or is it
depends.
on you?
So I have not, because when we were dating, my husband discovered that I'm a horrible cook. I had
Right.
zero knowledge. So I haven't cooked a meal in this house since, way before we got married. So since he's the cook, that means I'm the cleaner. So
Oh, you got the
I
shortest
know.
stick.
I know. So he does all the cooking, which I appreciate, and I clean up the kitchen afterward and everything else.
But
And
what about
then
everything else cleaning? Does
kids
everybody else
do some
clean up
chores.
everything?
I do laundry. It's mostly falls on me, to be honest.
Yeah.
But my
Well, there
husband handles the outside of the house and gets the cars serviced and all that. So we kind of have fallen into traditional roles.
Interesting. I love that you say it's traditional roles because there was a Gallup poll in 2020 and it found more than 3,000 American, and I'm going to add this emphasis on heterosexual couples because obviously we have different types of couples, but 3,000 American heterosexual couples found that women handle most of the domestic workload: laundry, cleaning, cooking. And it's worsened, obviously, since the pandemic. And so this article, I forget where I'm reading this out of. Oh, it's from this book, Fair Play. game-changing solution for when you have too much to do and more life to live, right? And it's about this woman, and she's all angry at her husband because he's not picking up the slack. It's a tale as old as time, right? It's nothing new. But then they're like, oh, here's all these tips on how you can make it more equitable or even around the household. Now, I feel like you guys have a pretty good kind of split, right? He cooks, you clean. He does the outside of the house, you do the inside of the house. It's like, okay. But the number one thing they put on their list of how to make it more equal was to list every chore and errand that has to be done. I think if I did that, one of us would be angry.
That's
don't you think?
exhausting. And don't you think that takes us more time than it takes just to do the thing that you're trying to split with someone?
Well, and then
Like, I don't want to have to tell you to put a load of laundry in when I could have done it in the last 3 minutes. Why are we writing it down and having a discussion?
Do you get, right? Like, I picked up the towel off the bathroom floor and brought it to the laundry room. Am I writing that down? Right? I feel like when you're talking about every chore and errand, they're saying each and every task required to manage the home. And that will show every family member. They're not just talking about spouses, they're talking about kids too. Will show the other people how much you do. And I think that's the point.
You know that blow up that happens, I don't know, once every 3 months, where finally you've had it because no one else has done anything?
Yes, and anytime I have to clean the house, basically.
So, yeah, that moment may be alleviated by the whole writing of things down thing,
maybe.
But I mean, realistically, I'm not doing that. I don't have enough time to do the writing it all down and keeping track. If I did that, I would write down everything I ate too, and I don't have time for that either.
That's very, very true. Yeah, I mean, they're saying, create a short list, cut unnecessary tasks, but the writing every single thing down, I feel is it's one of those things where we have to each give 50-50, and it's never going to be even. It's never. Just give 100% of what you can give that day and be done with it. Because there's times I've looked at my husband and I'm like, I know there's a million things to do right now. It's just not happening. I'm not doing any of it right now. Or I'll get a hair, like last night, I got a hair at my ass and I just started vacuuming the whole house and cleaning everything because I had the energy to do that.
But when
I don't have that all the time.
Stay out of my way. Like, I'm on a mission, and I don't care what time of night it is. Everybody better be up and get your clothes off the floor.
Exactly. Now, I know you're not much of a chef, but do you know who Ina Garten is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
that's the thing about my husband is he watches all the food shows. So
yeah,
she's a barefoot Contessa. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. So she was sharing quite a story about her husband. Apparently, and I don't know if you and your husband do this, Kim McAllister, but they like to send sexy texts to each other. All right.
But without photos or just this?
I'm assuming no photos. No photos. So apparently her husband has the bad habit, though, of texting racy messages to the wrong person.
Oh, God.
So she tells this story. So she was giving a recent interview to Drew Barrymore, actually. And she's like, he does, and sometimes they go astray, the messages. He sends them to the wrong person. Apparently, he once accidentally texted her friend and publicist, Christina Felix, a message. And the message said, you're going to be delicious tonight.
Or was it an accident?
That was my question. I'm like, or this guy is like dirty texting other people. Apparently, I mean, the woman told Ina Garten right after, so I'm assuming there's nothing else going on there.
How do you broach that subject? So listen, I just got a text from your husband, and he says I'm going to be delicious tonight, and I just feel really uncomfortable. I don't know what to say.
Well, apparently, I mean, he sends these racy texts to Ina Garten all the time. So it's not unheard of that he would send these texts. But why? I mean, don't you think you would know if it's your wife's name that you put up there? So the publicist's name is Christina Felix. Ina Garten. I mean, I guess FG. I don't think you have your wife's full name in your phone.
I think also if you're sending a naughty text, you're extra careful. Like before you hit send, you double check, maybe even triple check. Is this going to the person to whom it's intended?
Exactly. I just feel like maybe you should be a little more careful about sending sexy texts, but apparently she's fine with it.
I had a text situation with my husband last night, but he does this every time I try to send something, whether it's sexy time text or whether it's I'm mad at you text.
Right.
He said something to me and I sent him 3 poop emojis. And because like I was trying to say, you're not very nice, whatever. That's a bunch of crap type of thing. And his response to me always is, your children are right here looking over my shoulder.
So it's a poop emoji. Who cares?
I know. He's like, they can see what you're trying to say. I'm like,
A
oh,
triple poop.
stop it. I'm sure
Triple,
like
triple poop.
75% of the time they're not standing there. He just says that.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. Well, and it doesn't even matter. I mean, it's a poop emoji. I'm sure that they're well aware, David, of a poop emoji. It's A-okay. I wouldn't worry about that one at all. Let's kind of keep it in the food realm a bit. Did you hear that Julia Powell, the author of Julia and Julia, died?
Yes, I did. Of a heart attack, right?
At 49.
Yeah, that's really sad.
That
She
makes me scared when I hear
She's the
people.
one that was the catalyst for the movie because she
Yeah.
decided as an author that she was going to try to make all of the recipes that Julia Child put out. And that
Mhm.
turned into this story of articles and really, I think, kind of the first blog situation where
Oh,
all the
really?
first blogs and she changed the nature of how we write online and report things online in addition to this great story about how she grew not only as a chef
Yeah.
but a person. Yeah.
Yeah, Nora Ephron did the Julie and Julia film. The book came out in 2005 called Julie and Julia, 365 Days, 524 Recipes, One Tiny Apartment Kitchen. But did you also know that her next book, and unfortunately it was her last book because she passed away, was called Cleaving, a story of marriage, meat, and obsession.
Ooh.
And it was about how she revealed that she'd had an affair. She talked about or wrote about the pain of loving two men at once, her fondness for sadomasochism,
Oh.
and even a bout of self-punishing sex with a stranger.
Oh.
Oh my.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's called Cleaving. And apparently, I mean, it's just like two sides of the same coin type of thing. It's like she loves food. She got kinky side as well, but it's really sad that she passed away from a heart attack. But anyways, I just wanted to bring it up because I loved the movie. I never
Yeah.
read the book or the blog or whatever it came from,
Mhm.
but I
Me too.
absolutely love that movie. Meryl Streep was in that movie, and Amy Adams had
Right.
played Julie, and it was such a good movie. I loved
Meryl
it.
Streep as Julia Child was
Oh,
I don't know how
amazing.
she pulls off some of the things she does, but she's just so talented.
She is hands down the best actress
Yeah.
of our time. I mean, she is absolutely amazing. And hands down, the best tax expert out there is none other than our friend Steve Moskowitz. Steve Moskowitz, you can find at 888 Tax Deal or
.com.
Moskowitz.com.
I'm telling you, you know what? Could the Grammys be that far away?
I think I have to practice singing it a little bit more before I
Oh,
submit.
we can practice all day. I just love it.
I'm
All
doing
right,
the
Steve.
.com.
Okay, you do the .com, I'll do
Yeah.
the LLP. We're
Yeah.
gonna get it nailed down and get some
Wow.
music behind it. It's gonna be awesome. But you are the man to call, Steve. I'm not overstating this at all. You have decades of experience of handling all kinds of tax problems. You get people money from the ERC. What are people calling about nowadays? I mean, the extension deadline is passed. April 15th is a ways away, but you're constantly busy, aren't you?
Well, knock on wood, yes. And I don't want to go back to New York and be driving the cab again.
No, you do not.
And although I still remember those days, and they were good days too. I learned a lot driving that cab in New York. And people are mostly calling about ERC. They're saying, well, do I qualify? That's the big thing. They want, do I qualify? Now, not everybody does, but a lot of people do. The law says there's two different ways to qualify, either or. The first way is the easy way, a certain drop in gross revenue. That's mathematical. It's either a simple yes or no. But a lot of firms, a lot of CPAs are stopping there because the other way is more complex and you have to work on it. And sometimes we even have to ask clients, well, you know what? You didn't give me enough information today, so I'm going to give you some homework and you call me back and then we'll resolve it. It's a facts and circumstances test. And if you qualify, and there's all kinds of things like supply chain disruption, if you had a business inside under a statewide mandate from the beginning of the pandemic until June 15th, 2021, you can only use 25% of the inside of your business, like Safeway, essential business, food business. What could be more essential than that? But they could only use 25% of the store, like all other businesses in California. So that meant they had a government imposed 75% partial close down. And the bottom line is we take a look at this, we take a look at your facts and circumstances. Do we think you fit in there? Now, not everybody does, but a lot of people do. If you do, let's go ahead and get every dollar to which you're legally entitled. On the other hand, there's a lot of fraud going on, and the IRS is investigating that. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist, but I'm going to give some free legal advice right now. Obviously, you don't want to be committing any type of fraud, no tax fraud, no types of fraud at all. So what we'd like to offer you is we're a law firm. We've been doing tax representation for over 30 years. We're here from you, and you want to avoid the two extremes. You want to avoid the lazy companies that can't be bothered to see if you qualify under the more complex method. And obviously, you want to keep, far away from the fraudsters. You don't want to touch them with an 11-foot pole. And the bottom line is, we'd like to see if you qualify. And if you do, some people, and I realize people's facts, circumstances, and results can differ, get a substantial amount of money from this program.
I like getting a lot of money. I like getting a lot of free money with the ERC. Steve can help you figure it out. He's not one of these fly-by-nights. If you call him, he's going to pick up. So give him a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or find him online at moskowitz.com. There you go, Steve.
I'm telling you, pretty soon I'm going to have to go to Hollywood, be representing the two of you, and it's going to be amazing.
It's going to be fun. MoskowitzLLP.com. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon.
Nikki.
Bye-bye. Yeah, I think we got it, man. I really do. I think that this is the way that we're just going to brand Steve Moskowitz, our founding sponsor. All right, we're going to get a quick little break for some news. When we come back, President Biden, obviously out on the campaign trail, trying to promote voting, early voting, whatever way you need to vote. He's out there stumping for himself and for fellow Democrats. So he's posted a social media video, and I'll play you a little bit of that. Former President Barack Obama is doing his work as well in this arena. There's an Apple worker for 7 years scamming Apple. I'll tell you how he did that. Plus, one crime that you may not have thought was a crime, but it is. And I'll describe that. But first, let's take a look at some headlines.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Do we have Kim? Kim, are you muted? Are you there? Are you there, Kim McAllister?
How did I mute myself? That's halfway into the newscast.
Hey, you know what? It happens all of the time. So there you go. News Czar Kim McAllister.
All
there
right,
you go.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. I'm going to re-rack and start that whole thing again. The president is going after Republican candidates who he claims will not accept the results of Tuesday's midterms. At a Democratic National Committee event near the Capitol tonight, President Biden said these Republicans create a path to chaos. Recent polls have Republicans gaining some momentum in key races, though, across the U.S. Nicholas Cruz will never be free again. The judge formally sentenced the man who killed more than a dozen people in a Florida school shooting in 2018 to life in prison without parole. Cruz killed 17 people on Valentine's Day at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland.
Oh, I was hold on. I was watching some of the videos and following on Twitter some of these parents that were addressing him. I can't even imagine what I would say to somebody like that.
No.
I mean, it is so horrific. And I feel like we discussed this before, but I mean, life in prison or the death penalty, I would want him to die. But I'm going to be honest. There's a bigger part of me that's just happy that he has to live with what he did. I
I
just
just
am.
feel like, there's no words. You maybe it gives you closure to stand up and say something
Maybe.
to be part of that whole process, but your child is never coming back, and this is
I
never,
know. It's
never
so
going
awful.
away.
Never.
So, yes, life in prison without the possibility of parole. And talk about the Federal Reserve. They're increasing the interest rate yet again to curb inflation. The increase was 3/4 of a percentage point, and Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said the Fed committed to bringing inflation down to 2%. He anticipates ongoing increases. And the thing about that is, I'm just thinking about all these people carrying credit debt. And does
No,
that mean that
no.
their interest rates on all these credit cards are going to go up and up and up?
Exactly what well, I mean, I guess if you can lock in, if you have an adjustable one, right? But I mean, usually when you get your credit card, it comes with the APR that it has. So unless you're getting a new one or they adjust it because you've been late. I mean, you know how I feel about credit cards. I know some people need them. If you can pay it off each month and then you don't have to worry about the interest rates, but I know that's not always possible for
Yeah, but
people.
if you're carrying all that debt and you haven't paid it down and
I
now the interest
know.
rates are going rising, then you're in worse shape than you were before.
Yep,
Some
exactly.
other people in pretty bad shape, Nikki, are in California because some food stamp cards in California are being drained of their funds by scammers. It's called CalFresh EBT cards. You get sent out, apparently, these cards if you're a recipient of some help for CalFresh. They're old fashioned in that way. They only have a magnetic strip, they don't have the more secure chip on the card. So
Okay.
they're vulnerable to skimmers, which are often installed without the knowledge of the store owner. One benefits recipient saying the $280 on that card that was supposed to last for food, for the next however many weeks, was suddenly
Right.
just gone. And he reported it. So the state put more money on the card, and then that was stolen as well. The California Department of Social Services knows this is a problem. They're working on improving security systems, but I can't imagine that if you're relying on food stamps for food and then to have money stolen, it's like
Oh god.
ripping off the poorest of the poor.
I know, and the people that do that are the lowest of the low. I mean, go after and I'm not saying and criminals are terrible people, you shouldn't target anybody, but geez, you're gonna go after these people, and why aren't those cards more secure?
Yeah,
Why can't they have the chip? Haven't we, evolved our technology enough for everybody? Doesn't make
I
sense.
guess we're not doing better, especially by those
Yeah.
people, right?
Mm.
Okay, so when this has happened again, and we've seen this in the last couple of weeks, but another false report forcing the lockdown of a high school, this one in
Ugh.
Sacramento, Christian Brothers High School, a swatting call, otherwise known as a hoax. Zach Eaton with the Sacramento Police Department saying, this is not funny. They got an emergency call that 6 students had been shot inside a chemistry classroom. They rush out there, clear the school. They figured, okay, now we know it's a hoax. No shooting has occurred, which okay, that's better than the real thing, right? That's what you want.
Right.
But this swatting is a growing trend. Similar calls about Santa Cruz High School came in the last couple of weeks. They say making a false report is punishable by law, with callers being charged with a misdemeanor and jail time. If someone is seriously injured or dies as a result of a false report, that's a felony. So if an
Good.
officer dies while they're rushing to the scene of this fake crime and they figure out that, who's doing it, that person can be charged with a more serious case.
Well, and it's also, I mean, it's one of those, the boy who cried wolf type of thing. Not that cops are not always going to respond. We're not going to have a Uvalde here and there, right? But what I am saying is, how many times can this happen before there's just a little bit of a pause? I feel like this has to be some sort of social media trend or something happening in chat rooms or something, because these seem to be happening very close together in kind of a short time period. So I hope they can figure out where this is coming from, or the punishment needs to get harsher. I mean, I want to start seeing these kids' names, or at least, knowing that someone's being caught and held responsible. Because if you don't hold the kids responsible, guess what they're going to continue to keep doing?
Yep. Yep. And that's scary because the minute the word comes out that there's something going on at a
Oh,
school, all the parents notified,
of
right? So then
course.
you've got not only the kids in the school wonder what's going on, the cops are freaking out trying to get there. Then you've got parents showing up. It's chaos.
Yeah, it's awful.
So, okay, now to something a little easier. I don't know if I know you do love the pumpkin stuff, but I don't know at Starbucks when the pumpkin drinks are over, maybe around Thanksgiving. But now
Yeah.
we have a whole nother set of Starbucks drinks we can choose from, because this week, starting on Thursday, the
Mhm.
Christmas drinks are here. The peppermint mocha,
Nope.
the chestnut praline latte,
Nope.
and the holiday cups.
See, I'm not one of
I
those
know.
people. Are you one of those people? I'm not one of
No,
those people.
I don't
I
care.
I don't like sweet drinks. I don't like sweet coffee drinks. I like chai teas, like kind of like a spice in it, and then I like regular coffee or regular iced coffee. I don't like a mocha or even a peppermint mocha, which is, at least has a little bit of a mint to cut it.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm
I
just not one of those people.
See, I thought you were a pumpkin. Didn't you like the pumpkin
Oh
stuff?
God, no,
Okay.
no. I find it disgusting. I like pumpkin pie occasionally. Um, but no, I don't. I'm not a PSL, right? Pumpkin spice latte chick. I'm not. I'm
Oh,
not
man.
basic, Kim Callister. Not basic.
Well, they also have, were you into such things, the 4 new holiday cup designs at Starbucks.
Okay. Is God mentioned on any of them? Because
I
there's going to be an uproar, I'm sure.
don't know. Keep Jesus off the cup and just move on. It's okay. Oh, no.
How funny.
Anything but that.
I know.
Okay, so, and this one's for you. The 49ers in the weekend off. They're heading into a
That's
bye
right.
week. San Francisco returns to action November 13th when the 49ers will host the Chargers on Sunday Night
The
Football.
Chargers. Okay.
The
All right.
Chargers, that's November 13th. And a couple other pieces of 49ers news. The Niners traded
Mm,
running back Jeff Wilson Jr. to the Dolphins. They're getting in return a 2023 fifth round draft pick.
okay. That's
How
good.
does that
I like that.
feel? If you're the guy traded to the Dolphins and you get a fifth round draft pick, oh, thanks. Appreciate your confidence in my
Well,
ability.
yeah, I always wonder
Mm.
about that too. Like, are your feelings hurt? But I think it's just I'm playing, right? Maybe
Mm,
do you? I mean, I guess I would want to play with the Niners and not the Dolphins, but I don't know how that
yeah.
feels for a player. Yeah, as long as they collect a paycheck.
I guess at the end that's what matters most, right? But I think it's
Exactly.
a bit of an ego hit. Uh, in other team news, former 49ers executive John McVay died at the age of 91. He helped
No.
the San Francisco 49ers win 5 Super Bowl titles and was inducted into the team's Hall of Fame in 2013. I think his son is a football coach as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I
So,
I don't know. I never know. I always feel like there's some sort of family dynamic with all these guys out there, right? So
yeah, that's true. Oh, this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz, who we just talked to. He's so awesome. For more than 30 years, he's put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike, and he can do that for you as well. So if you need help with your taxes, please give Steve a call, 888-TAX-DEAL, or you can reach him on the web at
MOSKOWITZLLP.com.
I'm Kim McAllister on the Nikki Medoro Show.
Perfection, perfection, perfection. Thank you, Kim McAllister. Again, click that thumbs up. It really, really helps us out. Exposes our show to all kinds of people. It's free. It's easy. You just click it once, and we really, really do appreciate it. You can also help us financially by donating to our Patreon. The links to everything can be found on our website, thenikkimedoroshow.com. That's thenikkimedoroshow.com. Okay, so now, Kim, I am almost positive you have not sent in your ballot. You're going to do it on election day. Correct?
That's right.
Okay, that's what I do. This weekend, I think I might bubble it in this weekend. We'll see. But election day is coming, and President Biden is kind of hopping on the social medias, right? And he is older, and I will respect the fact that, not that he's trying to be hip, because even that sounds mean, but just trying to reach people where they are, right? And trying to see if he can reach people in different ways. So here he is. Let's show President Biden. This is him and his granddaughter, who
Okay.
just turned 18 years old. And so she's voting in her first election. And this is the tweet that he sent out.
Hey, I'm Natalie Biden, and I just turned 18, and I'm going to vote for the first time with my pop.
I'm so excited for her. This is the first time, the first vote. God love her.
We're on our way. Are you excited?
I'm excited to be voting with you, honey.
Aw.
It's a big deal.
Well, Well, now that I voted, it was a much easier experience than I thought it would be. It was very easy when I was in the voting booth. I really feel like I made a difference, you know. Everyone's voices matters no matter what our age is. And we got our triple thick black and white milkshakes to celebrate.
There's the voting.
Cheers, Pop.
I love it.
So cute.
It would have been funny. She's all, and I voted red. Like, what do you do
Awesome.
if, I mean, I'm assuming she voted Democratic, but who knows? You don't know how people obviously vote once they're in the booth, but it
Well,
matters.
she didn't say he went in the booth with her, so he probably
That's
let her go in there
true.
by herself. And
She would have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You never know who they're voting for. Okay, and then let's hear
I love his
from
glasses, though. His
I know,
sunglasses while he's
he
driving.
really is cute. He's a cute
Yeah.
guy, but I will say this. He's no Obama.
Wait, was he driving?
So I think, yeah,
Because I didn't think the president was allowed to drive themselves. I thought they had to be like the Secret Service was driving.
who knows? They could have been just, faking
Breaking
the
the
whole thing.
rules. I don't know.
Well, here's more social media outreach from our aging president and former president. So here is former President Barack Obama reaching.
Wait, who's that lady?
Watch, you got to watch. I got to hit play
Okay.
first. So they worked with the Democrats. This is Maroney. Now, Maroney is a digital communications for the Obamas. So here's this video.
Nobody moves, there's blood on the floor.
I can't convince you to vote, but maybe he can. It was very quick and easy. That was definitely a visual one. So I apologize to anybody that's just listening to this podcast. But basically, kind of just hanging out with his director of communications, former President Obama, and he stands there. And I'd played clips of him last weekend, right? Talking and on the stump for I think it was Gretchen Whitmer. And he's still so good. He is still such a good speaker. He riles people and inspires them and does all of those things.
He has confidence when he pauses or stops speaking and look around. He's not feeling like pressure to say something or be a certain way. He's just himself, always with this swagger and this confidence. I adore it.
I love him. I love him to death. So get out and vote is basically my whole point. And it honestly, and you guys know which way I lean politically. And I do believe that this election really has consequences, for reproductive freedom and so many other things. But I am not one to say I don't want Republicans voting. I'm not saying I want to suppress the vote of anybody. I am saying I want to convince you to see my side. That's what I'm saying. And then you go into that ballot booth and you vote the way that you want to vote. And I just wish that, more people would say that. Like, we don't have to agree, but I'm not going to make up lies and falsehoods. I'm not going to intimidate you. I'm not going to take out a gun and stand at the ballot box so that you're not there. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to battle you on the issues. And I'm going to try to convince you of why I feel the way I do and why you should vote the same way I do.
And if you disagree, if you don't want to row your vote, if maybe you have a different opinion on the matter, that's okay. That's okay. Just go and make your voice heard.
Exactly.
Go do it.
Exactly. It's just don't cheat. You know what I mean? Just don't make up falsehoods, lies, conspiracies. It's just ridiculous.
And if you lose, you lose. And if
Exactly.
if my candidate loses, and that's just the way it is.
And believe me, we've been losing a lot lately. So I'm hoping for some big wins in this midterm election. So it took 7 years. You'd think Apple would have figured it out beforehand. But apparently an Apple worker has admitted to scamming Apple out of more than $17 million for 7 years. It took them 7 years to figure it out. So his name is Dhirendra Prasad. I butchered that. I apologize. But he's been accused of defrauding the company. He scammed Apple out of more than $17 million by taking kickbacks, inflating invoices, stealing parts, causing Apple to pay for items and services that it never received. The reason why this story just leapt out at me is how the hell didn't they figure it out?
Why did it go on for so long?
Yeah. So he arranged for shipments of Apple components to this other company. It was called Quality Electronic Distributors. And then the person over there, I guess his accomplice, allegedly repackaged the goods and shipped them back to Apple. Then he created purchase orders for the components, and his his co-conspirator, submitted the invoices, thus billing Apple for its own components. I mean, it's ingenious if you think about it, but they finally got caught. So, he's admitted to tax fraud and what have you. His sentencing is set for March 14th. Now he's out of custody, which, I swear to God, you can still steal millions and be out. And then you could steal something from CVS and be thrown away for 3 years. I mean, it's just, I'm not saying one's more or less, but it doesn't seem fair.
So when I was on, speaking of the kind of unfair times of prison sentences, when I was trick-or-treating, I was walking along the street with a mom, and we're looking at these big mansions that were in this area where we were. And she pointed to a house and said, "You know the story about that house?" I said, "What?" "Oh, well, a lady died falling down the stairs, but she didn't really fall. Her husband pushed her." I'd go, "Oh, God." So I thought, I said, I got to go home and look that story up. I had no idea. And it's not, I don't live in the mansion neighborhood, but it's not too far from where I live.
Right, yeah.
So I thought, I got to know it over there. So I'm looking up today. This man, who was a carpenter, apparently was also a big drinker. Got really upset. His wife had confronted him about drinking and saying she wanted to leave him, and he got really mad. And he, according to police, had first said it was an accident, but then admitted to officers that he pushed her down the stairs, strangled her, and smashed her head into the floor a billion times.
Jeez.
Yeah. So he was sent to prison, and I think it was like 26 years to life he got. And after only 20 years, he was eligible for parole. And I think that I was trying to look up on the internet. I believe he's now out of jail now, out of prison. So that's 20 years, 21 years for a violent crime like this. Oh, and while he was in jail, he got married again to somebody while he was in
marries
prison.
these people? Who marries these people?
You know what he did to his first wife? Am I right? Like, in a violent
prison.
Yeah.
And he's in prison. I don't get it. I swear to God, I just don't get it. If I would love to hear, if we have any viewers or listeners, email me, thenikkimedoroshow@gmail.com. That's truly found love with someone behind bars. They came out and you lived happily ever after. It sounds like the beginning of a murder, case. It's like, I didn't know. I didn't know that the lion was going to eat me if I went into the den. I didn't know that the murderer would kill me when he got out of prison. I mean, I'm not saying that people can't be redeemed, but I'd wait till they were out. I don't start dating them when they were in prison. I mean, geez,
no, pretty scary, right? Because now he's out. Yeah, and I would be like sleeping with one eye open, maybe in another room with a lock on the door. I don't know. Like, what are you doing, lady?
Exactly. No, thank you. Well, speaking of things that are illegal, did you know that you cannot hit golf balls into the Grand Canyon? Well, one woman on TikTok figured that out the hard way. She posted a TikTok, actually on my birthday, on October 26th. She's at Grand Canyon National Park. Now, in the video, and I'm trying to bring it up, it's just a terrible size video, and I was trying to figure out if I can enlarge it, but I'll give it a shot. But I want to show it to you because here we go. So this is her, and you could just watch. Let's see if it does it. So she hits it. See, it keeps buffering, but the pole left her hand. See it up there on the top in the sky? That's her golf club. That's her golf club. See, it's a terrible video. So she hits the golf ball and lets go of the golf club. Well, and she laughed about it, but she posted it on Twitter, and she's getting fined. Well, she has since deleted it. That's why I couldn't find the original video. She's since deleted it because they found her. Authorities identified and contacted the woman a day after she posted the video. Park officials say throwing objects over the rim of the canyon is not only illegal, but can also endanger hikers and wildlife who may be below. Absolutely. I don't think people think about those things, but I mean, you could be, hiking, you could be camping down there. It's a big hole, as they say. So, yeah,
and plus, I mean, yes, you could damage people and creatures, but Also, it's a huge national resource. Why would you want to litter and dump stuff down
That's
there?
a good point. That's a
Plastic
good point.
balls and metal sticks, and don't do that.
Don't do that because and I get, people wanting to make that viral video or whatever. But at the same time, it's like, come on.
You have
Come
to
on.
figure you're not the only one who smacked a golf ball off the edge of the Grand Canyon. So how
No.
many of them are down there, or other balls, or whatever people decided to throw off? You're not the original, right? You're not the first one who
No.
ever thought of it.
But I would never have thought that if you got caught doing it, that you would be, 1, tracked down, and 2, fined.
Social
Okay.
media.
Social media indeed. Okay, before we end it, I never got to this, so I have to fulfill my promise. Adele, that is not apparently how you pronounce her name. So I don't know exactly where she was. She was on stage with somebody. She was taking calls from her fans. Okay.
Yeah.
I just downloaded the sound of this because I didn't want to mess with the video. It was like a half-hour long video. So here she is being asked a question, and then you'll hear her response.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Of course, I have to bring the volume up. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Okay, here we go.
Annie from London. Here we go. Hell yeah, girl.
Hi Adele, I'm Annie and I'm from London. And my question is, on your journey to self-love while writing 30, did your perspective on how you saw yourself when you wrote 25 change at all, and how? Cheers babes, love ya.
Where's she from? Enfield or something? Love that. She said my
It
name
just says
perfectly.
London. Yeah.
He came and asked me how I say my
Adele.
name and I was like, Adele.
How was
and she was
mine?
like, hi Adele.
They do it. Adele?
Adele.
Adele. Okay.
So it's like there's a W. Adele. Adele. Say it.
Okay, so I say Adele.
Adele.
But-
yeah.
So, but what I was reading today was that that we all say it here in America like H dash DELL. Adele.
Right. Adele. Yeah.
But they said she pronounces it dash DALE, like Adele.
But it sounds like she's adding a W. Adele. Adele.
Adele.
Adele. Like you
It's
kind of have
weird.
yeah, but it's London. And even the woman from London that was asking the question, for half the sentence, I was like, do I understand what she's saying?
I don't know what you're saying. This is one of the rereasons why I use the words on screen during Downton Abbey, during The
Yes.
Crown. I need the
Captions saved
words.
my life.
I don't
Yes.
understand.